Hi there, it's Tamara, and this practice is called root rebound. I did post a video last week called What the Heck is Root Rebound? So if you aren't familiar with that principle, you'll learn a little bit more about it there. Now, as I've said before, some of the practices I will demonstrate, in particular for people who are newer to yoga, and other practices I won't demonstrate to give you an opportunity to focus more on yourself, your internal experience, as opposed to on what I'm doing. So today's class I will not demonstrate, so we can get started. So we're going to start in child's pose. So come towards the back of your mat. Have your big toes together and your knees slightly wider than your hips width. Allow your arms to be back behind you as you sink your hips back to your heels, bringing your forehead to the floor. With your arms behind you, you can turn your palms up to the ceiling to allow the upper back to open and spread, the shoulder blades to move away from the spine. And start to cultivate a smooth and steady breath here. Start to deepen the length of the inhale and the length of the exhale. As you inhale, breathe into the back body, into the space you're creating in the shape. As you exhale, feel the forehead soften into the floor. And just be sure that there's no tension creeping into the base of the neck, which can sometimes happen in this pose. Deepening the breath a little bit more, creating a steadiness in the breath with the length of the inhale matching the length of the exhale. And then keeping your hips where they are, lift your head as you walk your hands forward, place your hands about shoulder distance apart, and fan your fingers so you can root down with the entire palm into the floor. Walk your hands far enough that your elbows are straight. As you push down into the palms, the upper arms are rebounding away from the floor. And you can facilitate this a little more by spinning the inner upper arm, the bicep, to the ceiling. As you root down with the hands, and in particular the inner hand, this part of the hand can tend to lift up. Maybe not here, but sometimes in the more weight-bearing poses like downward facing dog. So as you root down with the whole hand, rebound the hips back and down towards the heels behind you. Breathe into the rib cage, into the side body. On your next inhale, root down through the palms, pull yourself up to tabletop, and walk your hands back so they're beneath your shoulders, keeping your hands spread and your fingers rooting down, especially at the base of each finger. With the hips over the knees, the shoulders over the wrists, go ahead and step your right foot back behind you, plugging the ball of the foot into the floor. And you'll notice that your hips, your frontal hip bones, those bony protrusions at the front of the hips, are for the most part probably equidistant to the floor so that the right hip isn't opening up. So try to keep the hips level. Now direct your tailbone to your right heel. So you feel the front body, the low belly, lift up and move towards the back body. Keep rooting down with the hands as you lead with your inner right thigh, lifting your leg to about hip height. It doesn't have to go that high, it can be a little lower. Keep the leg neutral, so resist that urge to open the right hip up, so keep the toes directed down towards the floor. Press the sole of the foot to the wall behind you to get as much vitality in that leg as you can. Try not to lose that tone at the low belly by continuing to drop the tailbone to the heel. Now press down more with your right palm as you inhale your left fingertips towards the front of the mat. So your right leg is elevated, your left arm. As you spin the inner right thigh to the ceiling, also spin your inner left bicep, your inner arm to the ceiling. So your palm faces to the right and you're creating external rotation at the shoulder. Find length in two directions. As you reach your fingertips forward, send the sole of your foot back, keeping the tailbone heavy this whole time. Take one more inhale, root down any more into the right palm. As you exhale, lower the knee, lower the left hand. Step the left foot back. Plug the ball of the left foot into the floor. So root down through the ball of the floor so you can feel the front of the thigh, the quadricep engage. Keep pressing the palms down into the floor so you rebound up into the shoulder blades. And now leading with your inner left thigh, lift your left leg to about hip height, keeping the toes directed down towards the floor. Root down more with your left palm now as you sweep your right arm up beside the ear. with your palm spinning to the left, your inner right bicep spinning to the ceiling. Keep the tailbone towards the heel as you reach long in two directions, forward through the fingertips and back through the sole of the foot. Take one more inhale to stay here. As you exhale, lower the knee and lower the hand. Walk your hands forward just a couple of inches, and then we'll do cat-cow. As you inhale, arch your back, so let your belly drop towards the floor. As you ascend the crown of the head to the ceiling and the tailbone to the ceiling, keeping the chin level to the floor, resist the urge to lead with the chin, but rather lead with the chest. Pull your chest forward and up as you draw your shoulders away from the ears. Now as you exhale, root down through the palms. And here it's a really great pose to experience what that root rebound feels like. So as you push the floor away with your hands, your shoulder blades are rebounding up to the ceiling. So the more you root down into the floor with the hands, the more you send the shoulder blades to the ceiling, creating more openness across the back body. Now we'll link the breath and the movement. As you inhale, arch your back, pull your chest forward and up. As you exhale, round your back, draw your navel to your spine. Again, inhale, breath of expansion. Feel the chest move away from the navel. Exhale, breath of contraction. Feel the navel move to the spine. Again, inhale, arch. Exhale, round. Using the breath as you inhale and as you exhale, contract. Come back to a tabletop position. And now, again, walk your hands slightly back so your wrist creases are directly beneath your shoulders. Now, step your right foot back as you did before. Plug the ball of the foot into the floor so the quadricep is engaged. Direct your tailbone to your right heel. Root down with the palms into the floor to lift up into your shoulder blades. Keep the right foot where it is. Your left foot steps back to meet it, so you're in plank. Have your shoulders just slightly ahead of your wrist creases. So depending on your body, you may need to step your feet forward a little bit towards your hands so that your shoulders rock forward a little bit in space. But also simultaneously press back through the heels. So as you pull the chest forward, you're also sending the heels back and creating as much length in two directions. Take one breath to stay here. As you exhale, downward facing dog. Start with bent knees. As you root the hands into the floor, rebound your hips back and up, creating as much length as you can from the palms to the sitting bones, and ensuring that the inside part of the hand between the index and the thumb is rooting down as much as the outside part of the hand. Either keeping the knees bent or go ahead and straighten the knees, and just noticing if your low back rounds, probably better to keep your knees bent so that you can get that length along your spine all the way down to your low back. Now on the breath, as you inhale, rock yourself forward to plank, tailbone heavy. As you exhale, downward facing dog. A few times like that. Inhale, rock to plank, chest forward, heels back. Exhale, downward facing dog. Again, inhale, rock to plank. Don't drop the hips so much that you feel yourself go into a back bend. Exhale, downward facing dog. Last time, inhale, rock to plank. Exhale, downward facing dog. This time, inhale yourself to plank. Exhale the knees down to the floor and untuck your toes. Keep the tailbone heavy so you feel the front body engage, the navel drawing in towards the spine. As you inhale, microbend your elbows, keeping them pinned in towards the ribs, baby push-up. As you exhale, push the floor away. Press up into your shoulder blades. As you inhale, microbend the elbows lower, and then root the hands into the floor, straighten, rebound into the back body. 2 more times. Inhale, keep pulling the chest forward without losing the tone in the belly. Exhale, push the floor away. Last time like that. Inhale, microbend. And exhale, straighten. This time lowering all the way down to the floor, bending your elbows as slowly as you can, keeping your elbows pinned in so that the shoulders stay open, So across the chest, you're open from shoulder to shoulder. Once you land, put your forehead down on the floor so the back of the neck stays long. Have your legs about hips distance apart. And then walk your hands out along the floor to shoulder height and just tent your fingertips there. Start by engaging the legs. Keep the tops of the feet down. Lift your kneecaps so your quadriceps engage, just like they did when you had the ball of the foot plugging into the floor. Now keep the tops of the feet down. As you gently press into the fingertips, inhale, squeeze your shoulders away from the floor, and then allowing the head to lift as you lift your head, your chest, your shoulders, keeping the fingertips rooting down. Gently apply a little more pressure, rooting down through the fingertips, as a way to rebound the chest a little further away from the floor. And again, just notice if you feel the tendency to lift the chin. Sometimes that gives us the impression that we're getting deeper into the back bend. Actually, try to go more for length. And again, keep the back of the chin heavy so the back of the neck stays long. And rather than leading with the chin, lead with the chest. Lift the chest. Take an inhale, stay here. Keep everything lifted as you bring your hands right next to your lower ribs. One more time, pinning your elbows in so you're open across the chest. Either staying here or if it's part of your practice, upward facing dog. Push down through the hands. Press the tops of the feet down, lifting your knees away from the floor. And then everybody meet in downward facing dog, hips back and up. A few more cycles of breath here. Coming back to that sense of rooting down through the hands and rebound the hips away from the hands. So you're getting as long as you can along the spine. Inhale to come high on the toes, look up between your hands, and then step or hop your feet there. Press your palms into your shins into your palms as you come up to a flat back, and then pull your chest forward so much so that it shifts your weight forward. And then keeping your weight forward, round down, exhale over the legs. As you inhale, root down through the feet, come up the way you came down, so through a flat back. Reach your arms out to the side, then up to the ceiling, come to standing. Exhale, lower your arms. Okay, so we're going to do a pose that's called puppy dog. Walk to a wall and face the wall. Place your hands on the wall about frontal hip bone height. So they probably won't lay flat until you step back. That's okay. Just place them on the wall about shoulder distance apart. And then step your feet back with your feet hips distance apart to what feels like a 90-degree angle between your torso and your legs. It's sometimes hard to tell, in particular in this position, where you are in space, but do the best you can to sense that you're in 90 degrees. And if it isn't 90 degrees, that's okay. This is a place where it's easier to practice this idea of root rebound. So fan your fingers so you can really press the entire palm into the wall, and in particular the inner hand. Push the wall away till your elbows are straight, sending your hips into the center of the room or whatever's behind you. So as you root into the hands, you're rebounding your hips back away from the wall. Keep all that length you just found, but also pull the chest towards the wall. Not so much that you arch into a back bend. So while you do that, continue to direct your tailbone directly behind you. Use the legs by pressing the thighs to the wall behind you as you continue to slightly pull the chest forward and up. Couple more breaths here, breathing into the rib cage. And then to come out, step towards the wall and drop the arms. Come back to the front of your mat, standing in mountain pose with the feet hips distance apart, and we'll come through some sun salutes. On an inhale, root down through the feet, rebound up through the fingertips. Hinge at your hips as you fold forward and down. So as you hinge from your hips, the spine stays long for as long as it can, and then eventually, obviously, it rounds down over the legs. Inhale, hands to shin as you come up to a flat back. As you exhale, bend your knees a lot, place your hands alongside your feet. Step your feet to plank. Like the first plank that we build, take a couple of breaths here to notice, where are my shoulders in space? Rock them slightly ahead of the wrist creases. This works for most bodies. As you send the heels to the wall behind you, as you root down through the balls of the feet, the legs rebound towards the ceiling, keeping the pose, the lower half of the body in particular, as dynamic as you can. Now as you exhale, pinning your elbows in, lower all the way down to your belly. Keep your hands next to your low ribs, pin your elbows in. Inhale, baby cobra. So lift just the head, the chest, the shoulders. Keep the hips down, the legs down. Either press to up dog from here or stay in baby cobra. And then exhale, downward facing dog, several breaths here. Glancing back at your feet, having them hips distance apart. And parallel, so if you can see your inner heel, see if you can move your heels apart enough that you can no longer see your inner heels. So the heels are going straight back and down as opposed to towards one another. That helps to keep the inner thighs moving straight back as opposed to towards one another, keeping the legs neutral as opposed to rotating out. On an inhale, come high on the toes, look up. As you exhale, step or hop, feet to the front of the mat. Take an inhale to come up to a flat back. Take an exhale to fold in and down. Take an inhale to rebound all the way up to standing. Reach your fingertips to the ceiling. As you exhale, lower your arms. Again, root down through the feet. Grow tall up through the waist to the fingertips. Exhale, hinge at your hips as you fold forward and down. Inhale, come up to a flat back. Come up part way. Hands right next to your feet. Keep pulling your chest forward as you step your feet back. So again, always moving in two directions. Take an extra breath to root down through the balls of the feet, rebounding the thighs to the ceiling. As you exhale, either drop your knees or keep your legs straight as you lower all the way down to your belly. Take an inhale to lift the head, chest, and shoulders, baby cobra. Either staying here or next inhale, straighten the arms, lift the hips. Press down through the tops of the feet, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog, hips back and up. Coming back to that sense of root rebound. Rooting down through the entire hand as you rebound the hips back and up. Inhale high on the toes, look up. Exhale, step or hop, feet to the front of the mat. Inhale to come to a flat back. Pull your chest forward. Exhale, lower down. Inhale all the way up to standing. Reach your fingertips up. And exhale, lower the arms down. One last time. Inhale, energizing breath. Breath of expansion. Lift the fingertips to the ceiling. Exhale, breath of contraction as you fold in on yourself. Lower the crown of the head towards the floor. Inhale again to come back to a flat back, breath of expansion. Exhale, plant your hands next to your feet, step your feet to plank, keep pulling your chest forward. Exhale, pin your elbows in, lower all the way down to the mat. And inhale, baby cobra or up dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Come high on the toes, we're going to move towards triangle pose. Look up between your hands. Step your right foot all the way up between your hands. Help it if you need to by grabbing the back of the shin and inching it forward. Then spin your left heel down. So your front foot, your front heel intersects your back arch. Now windmill your left arm forward to bring you up and around to face the left side of your mat. And then go ahead and straighten the knees if the front knee is bent. With your arms out to the side at shoulder height, flip your palms up to the ceiling and then bring your fingertips up to the ceiling. Root down a lot with the feet. Rebound from the waist to the fingertips up. Keeping this length you just found on either sides of the waist. Start to direct your front sitting bone to your back heel as you tilt into triangle pose. A lot harder without the bottom hand down. So you may not go that deep, that's okay. It really helps to activate the legs when we take the arms out of the picture. So keep gently pressing the feet apart, really rooting down through the ball of the front foot and rebound the front sitting bone back and in. Take one more inhale to stay into the side bend. As you exhale, spread your arms. Now you're in a classic triangle pose. So right hand down to the shin or the foot. If you have a block, you could have the hand on the block. Rebound your left fingertips up to the ceiling. So finding that spread across the chest by pressing down on the bottom hand, expanding across the chest all the way up through the fingertips. Take an exhale here, root down through the feet. On an inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, one breath, warrior two, bend into the front knee. And then glance to your front foot. Place your hands either side of the front foot as you roll onto the ball of your back foot. So you're in a low lunge. Transitioning to a little bit of a different vinyasa. So with your chest pulling forward, step your right foot back. You're now in plank. Just for one breath, we'll do side plank. Roll into the outer border of your right foot, onto your right hand. Stack your left foot on top of your right. Or keep it in front if balance is an issue. Big inhale, reach your left fingertips to the ceiling. Root down through the right hand. Rebound up through the left fingertips. One more inhale here. Exhale, bring the left hand down, separate your feet hips distance apart. Either go directly to down dog or take the vinyasa, in other words, lowering down to your belly. Inhaling for the back bend, either baby cobra or up dog, and exhaling, downward facing dog. Inhale high on the balls of the feet, the left foot steps forward. The right heel spins down so your front heel bisects your back inner arch. Windmill your right arm forward to lift you all the way up to face the right side of your mat. Go ahead and straighten the left knee if it isn't already. And then flip your palms to the ceiling, reach your fingertips to the ceiling. Now we know how much from the last side we need to use the legs, so let's start that here. Really press down and through the ball of the front foot. As you start to tilt into triangle pose, rebounding the front sitting bone towards the back heel. Keep the length on the left side of the waist by reaching the fingertips forward and up. Take one more breath here. Keep pressing the feet apart for stability. Now as you exhale, spread your arms. Left hand comes down. Root down into whatever the hand is on, whether the shin, a block, the floor, and rebound the right fingertips up to the ceiling. As you exhale, root down further through the feet, and then inhale, rebound all the way back up. One breath into warrior two, bend into the left knee. As you exhale, flip onto the ball of the right foot, bring your hands on either side of the left foot. Transitioning through side plank. So first start by stepping your left foot back, you're in plank. Find the heaviness of the tailbone here before you flip into the side plank. Now go ahead and rotate over onto the outer border of your left foot, your left hand. Stack your right foot on top of your left, reach your right arm directly above your right ear. Root down through the bottom hand, rebound up through the top. Root down through the bottom hip, rebound the hips away from the floor. Take an inhale to stay. As you exhale, back to plank, separate the feet. Your choice, either come through the vinyasa or go directly to downward facing dog. Few deep, steady breaths here in downward facing dog. And just again, drawing your awareness to the palms. It doesn't have to be an aggressive press down into the floor, just noticing where the palm makes contact with the floor. As you press the floor away gently to find more length along the spine. Take one more breath here. As you exhale, lower your knees down. And then lower your elbows down and take your hands interlaced up to the webbing. And just glance at your elbows and have them a little narrower than shoulder distance apart, with your shoulders stacked right over your elbows. Still on the knees, push the floor away. So you root down through the entire forearm as you rebound into the back body one more time. While you do this, can you still slightly shift your gaze forward, pull your chest forward, so you're not completely contracted, but practicing both pushing and pulling along the front body. Keep rooting down through the forearms. Now add the legs, step your feet back. You're in plank on the forearms. Just notice what's making contact with the floor. Pressing down through the outer hand, the outer arm, to lift up into the back body. Press down with the balls of the feet to send your legs away from the floor towards the ceiling. If you feel your hips start to sink towards the floor, bring your hips higher, so almost like in a pike position. And then wherever you are, drop your tailbone towards the heels. And you can feel when you do that, the front body completely engaging. So wherever you need to feel that, regardless of how high the hips are, put your hips in that position. Gravity is going to be pressing down on you towards the floor. We need to resist back up against gravity. This is one of the ways to do it with the hips. So keep directing your tailbone down. Take one more breath here. As you exhale, come down to the belly. Okay. And then take your hands right next to your low ribs. Press yourself up into baby cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. One more inhale to stay. Exhale, drop your knees. One more time, interlace the hands up to the webbing. Draw your elbows in a little narrower than shoulder distance apart. If you want to switch up the interlace, you can, just to change things up. Heading towards dolphin. So tuck your toes underneath you and then come to, dolphin is essentially a modified version of down dog, only with half your arm. So the forearm on the floor. Bend your knees at first so you can get as much opening as you can from the elbow along the armpit, the shoulder blade area to the outer hip. And again, root down through the arms so you can rebound your hips back and up. And just notice how this may feel different from downward facing dog. In general, it's a little bit harder because we only have the strength of the lower arm as opposed to the whole arm pressing the hips back and up. Now, if your knees are bent, you can go ahead and straighten the knees. To the extent that you can keep the low back long, you can walk the toes in a little more, sending your heels back and down towards the floor. Let the head hang freely, easy for tension to come into the neck, especially here. The head's not on the floor, but gently maybe grazing, definitely some space, no weight on the head. Take one more breath here. Press down through the forearms, rebound back and up with the hips. As you exhale, drop the knees. Let's come to child's pose. So bring the knees a little wider than hips distance. Bring the toes together. Sink your hips back and bring your arms back as well to give the shoulders a break. With your arms back, turn your palms up. Forehead down to the floor. Again, release any tension that may have crept into the back of the neck. Listening to the sound of your voice, sound of your breath, my voice. Listening to the sound of your breath moving in and out of the body. Breathing into the back body. Sinking your hips further back and down. Hands next to your knees as you roll on up. And then come to a seated position with the legs out in front of you. If you have blankets, you can sit on a blanket. Sometimes even a pillow is nice, just to elevate the hips slightly so you can lift up out of the waist easier than if you were to just be sitting on the floor. You can also roll the back of your mat forward a little bit so you have a couple rolls that you can sit on. And again, bring your hips a little bit higher. Have the legs out in front of you, hips distance apart with the toes directed up to the ceiling. And just for now, bring the hands right next to your outer hips. Draw your elbows towards one another again to find this openness from shoulder to shoulder. As you root the sitting bones down into whatever they're on, ascend the crown of the head to the ceiling, and then exhale to gently drop the chin. Every inhale, see if you can lift the chest towards the chin. Keep the lift in the chest on the exhale. Allow the shoulders to move away from the ears. The shoulder blades slide down your back. So every inhale giving you that opportunity to lift up out of the waist. Every exhale finding a little more connection to the root of the pose or the sitting bones down into the floor, the hands down into the floor. Now keep this lift you just found as you lift your gaze, chin level to the floor. Bend your right knee, plant your right foot towards your sitting bone. Hook your left arm or your left hand around the right knee, draw it into the chest, but press the knee back into the hand as well. So you keep the knee roughly around in line with the shoulder as opposed to drifting towards the midline, towards the navel. Create a little tension there as you inhale, go straight up through the crown of the head. And then gentle twist from the rib cage, rotate towards the right knee. Right hand is behind you. From that position, inhale, lift up. And exhale, rotate any amount. So again, rotating the left side of the ribs to the right knee, but keep resisting the right knee out into the palm or the arm that's hooking it. Couple more breaths here. As you exhale, unwind, come back to that seated position with the hands on either sides of the waist so you can find the length that you may have lost a little bit in the twist. Keeping as much length as you can, bend the left knee, plant the foot close to the sitting bone and in line with the sitting bone as opposed to right next to the right thigh. So there's a bit of space between the foot and the thigh. Take the left hand behind you as you take your right hand or your right arm, hooking it around the left knee. Keep pressing the left knee into whatever's holding onto it as you inhale, lift up out of the waist, grow taller. Exhale, rotate towards the left. Keep letting the shoulders drift away from the ears as you inhale, ascend the crown of the head. Exhale, rotate. One more time for length on the inhale and rotate on the exhale. Take a breath to stay wherever you are, and then as you exhale, come back to center, left leg along the floor. And then bend your knees, plant your feet, roll onto your back, hug both knees into the chest. Maybe rock side to side on the low back. Lift your shins so they're parallel to the floor. Let both legs drop over to the left as you allow the right side to descend to the floor in the opposite direction. So supine twist. Breathing into the rib cage. Feeling the spread shoulder to shoulder. As the right side descends down towards the floor, it may not touch, that's okay. Breathing into the low back. And then on an inhale, lead with the top leg as you come back to center. As you exhale, let both legs drop to the right. Spreading your arms apart, allowing the left shoulder blade to drift towards the floor, to melt towards the floor. As you breathe into the belly, the outer hip, wherever you feel a bit of openness, or maybe wherever you feel deep sensation, send the breath there. A lot of this is really just about expanding the breath to beyond our usual capacity to help to facilitate regulating the nervous system, inducing a sense of calm and ease through the breath. Leading with the top leg as you come back up to center, hug both knees in. And then stretch your legs out along the floor, have them as wide as the mat. Allow them to open naturally so the toes can fall open, so the hips fall open. And take the final resting pose here. So I encourage you to stay for at least 5 minutes. But as you shut this off, feel free to stay as long as you like. Thanks for watching.